Welcome to the Meeting of Minds podcast. I'm Philippa Robinson. So if you are a listener to previous episodes of my podcast, you might have heard me talk about my relationship with food. And I have said that one day I will record a podcast episode. So I'm already shifting, feeling a bit uncomfortable. So I have decided today I'm going to record a shortish episode and talk about my relationship with food. So I wrote my memoir last year, 2021, and there is a chapter in there about my relationship with food. And I don't talk about my issues with food throughout the whole of the book. But it was very much, has been very much a part of my everyday life. My relationship with food, my feelings around food, what I eat, what I don't eat, and how that makes me feel about my body and has made me feel about my body. And yeah, I've been meaning to record this for a while. Don't know why I've been putting it off, but today's the day. So as a child, as a little baby, I was a chunky little baby, with fat wrists and fat ankles like, babies do. So it was the late 60s. My mum tried very hard to be slim. She was incredibly slim when she had me, actually, but she had been much larger as a teenager. I don't know how she went from there to being really skinny. And actually, when I see pictures of her as a teenager now, I wonder how she got to where she was when she was really tiny. But anyway, she was. I mean, those were the days of like Twiggy and mini skirts, and women felt under a lot of pressure to be really, really small, petite, and skinny, I think. So I think me being a big chubby baby wasn't really ideal, and I grew into a chubby little kid. I wasn't responsible for what I was eating, or at that young age, at tiny age. So I just was the product of my genes, my whatever. Anyway, by the age of 7, my mum had decided that I was too big. She was getting remarried. I was being a bridesmaid, and me and her adult bridesmaid were to have matching dresses, and there was a problem getting dresses to fit us both. So we ended up with a dress that only just fitted me. And I vividly remember a conversation in the shop, and my mum said, "Don't worry, she needs to go on a diet anyway. I'll make sure she fits in that dress." And I was quite promptly put on my first diet. And I did fit in the dress. And, so the diet worked. And I learned as a result of that my body before I had got in that dress was unacceptable. And that stayed with me for a long time. I also around that time, that summer, there are photographs of me on holiday, and those photographs for a long time were referred to by my mother as, "Oh, that was the one summer that you looked okay." Great, thanks, Mum. So I have always had this understanding around I couldn't tell you how my body was supposed to look. So I didn't necessarily have this picture put in front of me that this is what you should look like. This is from my mum, obviously. Although in society we are bombarded with pictures of this is what happy, successful women look like. So if you want to be happy and successful, this is what your body needs to look like. And those bodies are normally white, slim, dressed nicely, makeup, hair done nicely, you know, all those things, all those images that we are given from a very young age. So that is going on, as well as my mother quite clearly making me go on a diet, which gave me the message. Now, whether she intended that to happen or not, the message I took from that was that my body in the natural state that it wanted to be in at that time was unacceptable. And that stayed with me for a long time. I think it was also a thing for me to focus on when things at home with my mum and my stepdad and all the family stuff that was going on. I won't go on into that here because I think if you've listened to some other episodes, you'll know more about that. But with all that was going on at home, topped with actually, you know, your body is not acceptable. That was a lot for me to deal with, and I didn't deal with it well. What happened was that as a result of feeling really unacceptable, and on the back of that, I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel loved by my mum anyway, but not feeling loved, being told I didn't look okay, and feeling very unlovable as a result of not looking okay and not being loved. It was a very hollow, empty experience for me inside my body. My feelings were numb. Well, actually, the feelings weren't numb to start off with. I felt very lonely and sad and probably angry in the end, but not so angry at the beginning. But there were lots of feelings of confusion and pain and hurt. And my way of dealing with those feelings was to eat. And I ate not because I was hungry. I ate as much as I could get hold of, as often as possible, to fill that gaping void inside of me. Yeah, I was rarely hungry because actually I ate as frequently as I could. It was that fill the hole, eat, fill the hole, and eat too much, usually the same thing, usually quite calorie laden, fatty, carbohydrate high, you know, all those things that, you know, we crave, especially we crave them when we're eating for emotional reasons. And, you know, I would slowly fill the hole. And as I ate all those things laden with fat and sugar and carbohydrate, it would put me into sort of a bit of a stupor, really. And it would calm those feelings of not enoughness and not worthy and not being loved for a short time. It didn't work for very long, because when you fill the hole and you feel, okay, when you numb all that swirling pain inside, what happens reasonably quickly after that is the shame comes in, and the shame comes in big time, which just is crippling. Oh my God, what have I done? I'm so awful. No wonder nobody loves me. I'm gross. Nobody will ever love me like this. And the shame really hastens on the whole empty feeling again, which just allows the cycle to perpetuate. And it's, you know, it's a real cycle, a really unhealthy cycle. I didn't know that it had a name. It certainly didn't at the time, but it was very prevalent for me. And just as an aside, it's also, that paradox of um, the way I grew up. I just wanted to be small and in the background and not seen, and be the good girl, and not be a bother, and not be. I wanted to be loved, but I didn't want to be loud and outspoken, and I wanted to sort of blend into the background. But on the other hand, the more I ate, the bigger I got, and the more I became noticeable. It was almost like the look at me, but don't look at me. um, and oh God, there's so many layers to this. There really is. And I grew up very definitely thinking that I was, I was grotesque. I was, obviously I was fat. I was lazy. I was greedy, because those are the messages that fat people receive from society in general. People go on all the time that people are only fat because it's a lack of education. I'm sorry, but that is just not right. Most fat people do not want to be fat. They really don't. Most fat people would much rather live in a smaller body. It is easier living in a smaller body. I would love to live in a smaller body, but equally, I have accepted my body now, and I'll get onto that in a moment. But all the messages that society tells us is that if you are, bigger, fatter than what is deemed to be normal, she says, putting in quotes, normal, then you must either be stupid, lazy, greedy, or not care about yourself. Now, the not caring about yourself, I think there is a point to that, but that's the not caring comes from the messages we receive as children about not being worthy. And that's where the, not caring for yourself enough comes from. But it's, society just sees fat people as a problem that needs to be solved, in that just cut your calories and exercise more, and it will, you'll be fine. God, if it was that easy, we wouldn't have the problem that we've got now. And I'm not saying that there aren't some people who just eat. I don't know. I don't know whether there are only people who just eat too much for the sake of eating too much. I doubt that. It's like a drug, really. It's a way of numbing the pain. And unlike drug addiction and alcohol addiction, there is not as much help around eating for when eating is done to numb the pain of the feelings inside. And it's just it's made out to be a simple problem that would be easy to fix if only these fat people could get their act together. God, it makes me mad. It really makes me mad. And actually, eating to numb the pain inside, to numb those painful feelings, is now known as binge eating disorder. I believe that was something, it was a good 10 years ago or so. Was it 2012, something like that? Maybe it was before that. But and it made me feel better to understand that actually I have a disordered pattern with food. It did make me feel better, but it doesn't actually stop the fact that I still live in a body that is deemed unacceptable. And I totally appreciate that I'm not as big as other people, but I definitely get that. I've had that message ingrained in me over the years, and I know I'm not the only one. I know there are a lot more people. And I just, it's one thing that makes me really, there are quite a few things, but it's one of the things that makes me really mad. This sort of marginalizing, sidelining of fat people as just, well, they've done it to themselves. Well, yeah, well, I mean, nobody forced the food down me. I have done it to myself, but I haven't just done it out of spite or something. Uh, and I think recognizing that there is perhaps something more, there's something deeper going on, might be a good place to start to help um, people who use food to numb their feelings and to numb the pain. Get some help and start moving away from that way of numbing. I mean, the problem is, as you're doing that, especially, and also if you're binging and purging, or you're binging and then going on binge eating and then going on really restrictive diets, you just screw your metabolism up over the years. I mean, I have tried loads of diets over the years. I've been to Weight Watchers, I've been to Slimming World, I've been to Rosemary Conley, all those 80s and 90s, mainly 90s, places to go and get weighed and do all that. I've tried the cabbage soup diet, the South Beach diet, the this diet, the that diet. I've tried everything. I even in 2009 did Lighter Life, which is meal replacements, and I lost 5 stone. Went down to a size 12, which is the smallest I've ever been as an adult. I hadn't dared to do it before because I hadn't dared to do it because I think there was part of me that wanted to be able to blame the fact that my life wasn't great on being fat. And if I lost the weight, then I wouldn't have that to blame any disappointment with my life on. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I hope if I explain that properly. But by 2009, I was married. I'd had my second child, and I really felt that was a good time to actually lose the weight, which I did. I felt, well, whilst I was doing the diet, I was having blackouts and fainting all the time. I was having muscle cramps, but I stuck to it, and I felt great being able to wear smaller size clothes. Apparently, some of my friends, some people didn't actually like to ask me anything about the weight loss because they thought maybe I was ill, and that's why I wasn't talking about it. And I didn't tell a lot of people I was actually doing it because I didn't know whether I'd be able to stick to it. I did stick to it. I did feel in my body great being at a lighter weight. I liked being able to shop for clothes and looking better in clothes than I'd ever done. I don't think I'd ever been a size 12 as an adult. But then I started to notice a few things. I began to notice that people were treating me differently. I began to notice that more people would hold the door open for me, that I would be let into queues of traffic more easily. When I'm waiting to pull out into a queue of traffic, people would wave me in much quicker and more easily than they'd done in the past. I began to notice that people stopped and talked to me more. Seriously. Because I didn't notice at first, and then I thought, why are those people talking to me when they've never talked to me before? This would be at work and things like that. And I began to realise that it was to do with the weight loss. That people thought that now I was slimmer, I was somehow worthy of their time. What is that about? And I also that was one thing I began to realise, and I also began to realise that losing the weight had made no difference to what was going on in my head and my feelings. I still felt that things weren't right. And the one great thing that I learned about losing all that weight was that actually the things that I had problems with in my life were not about the weight. So it is what I dreaded in a way by not actually losing all the weight beforehand, but maybe that happened at a time when I was ready to accept that it wasn't the weight. So it did me a great favor in that way. But yeah, I was really upset that people were treating me differently because I knew that the me inside was still exactly the same. And to really feel that people were treating me differently, better, now that I was slimmer, was really hard. It was really hard. And I don't know why I was surprised, but I was. And I put the weight on back on over the next. It took a while, 4 or 5 years, and I am probably now the size that I was ish when I lost all the weight, but I am so much happier, so much happier. And I think I've said on previous episodes, the least interesting thing about me is the size of my body. It really is. And if anybody is that bothered about the size of my body, then that's up to them. Who I am, what I stand for, what I stand against, what I believe in, what I want to bring to the world, what I want for my nearest and dearest, all those things, that is much more important than the size of my body. And I constantly have to tell myself that because I am constantly bombarded with messages from society that tells me that I am still in a body that is too big. And if only I lost weight, then I would be somehow a better person in a way. Now I have no health issues that are no, I don't have any health issues. I think perhaps I might have. I don't know. Would I have a few less aches and pains? I don't know if I would because bad posture, sitting at a desk all my working life is what has really knackered my body in. I think, especially my neck and my my upper back. The trauma that I've experienced, that I've kept in my body, that I've lived with so long, has done much more damage to my body than being fat. And doctors always want to tell me that I should lose weight. Can't tell me why I should. It's just that my BMI is not where they want it to be. It's like, yeah. And the last time I went to the doctors, they insisted on weighing me. Yes, I could have said no, and I said no a couple of times. And they said, okay. And doctors get paid for this sort of data. That's why they want to weigh us. And I got on the scales, and she went, right, okay. And I said, yeah, you're going to tell me it needs to be lower than that. Yeah. And she gave me a little lecture about losing weight, which made me feel so rubbish that I went home and ate a tub of ice cream. I could have not eaten that ice cream. And I kind of don't do that anymore. But that's what I did at the time. And, I wouldn't have done that if she hadn't given me the lecture. And the reason I now have a better relationship with my body and with food, I don't need food in the same way that I used to. I don't have that hole to fill anymore, which is why I now don't need to fill it with food, because I have filled that with me. I have learned who I am. I have done all this inner work that I've done, and I have learned to love me as I am. So that hole, is just not there anymore. But that's how I have altered my relationship with my body, with food, and also learning about intuitive eating, which I did sort of as whilst I was going in therapy. I didn't learn my therapist, but it was something that I came across and learned more about, and realized that all the years I spent on diets and binging and then being on restrictive diets had just stopped me being able to listen to those signals that our body does naturally and tells us, whether we're hungry, whether we're thirsty, what it is that we want to eat, what our body needs. The only time I listened to those signals was when I was pregnant. And both times I was pregnant, I really craved meat. So I think I was craving protein probably. And I gave that to my body. When I was pregnant, I gave myself permission to eat what I was craving. But at all other times in my life, whatever my body craved, I'd be telling it, no, you can't have that. Because, I should be restricting what I eat, because society tells me that I am too big, therefore I should restrict what I'm eating. And I just lost any connection with that, with that part of me that tells me when I'm hungry and what it is that I want to eat. So as part of reconnecting with myself and finding out who I am, I have managed to reconnect with that part of me that tells me what I want to eat and when I want to eat, and largely I follow that. And I think a lot of people are really frightened of intuitive eating because they think they're just going to eat ice cream all the time. And, to be honest, first few days I did eat a lot of ice cream. Now I know I can have ice cream whenever I want because I'm not restricting it. I don't want it as much. It's really interesting, that concept of, instead of restricting, like opening up the opportunities. And then it's like, oh, okay, I can have whatever I want. Yeah, if I want to eat chips for tea, I can have chips for tea. Oh, okay. Actually, when I listen, no, what I really want is the vegetable stew. Okay, that's what I'm going to have. And tomorrow, if I want chips, I'm going to eat chips. I know I'm making it sound really simple, and in some ways it is simple. But the unlearning the behaviors that are really ingrained in us, and learning new ways is not necessarily that simple. But it really can be done. And it can be done. And I feel like I have really changed my relationship with food and with my body as part of all the work that I've done around changing my relationship with myself. And I wanted to come today and talk about this, just in case this is useful for anybody else to hear. So if you have found it useful, I'd love to hear from you. I really would. So please get in touch and let me know. And maybe if this might be useful for anybody to hear, please pass it on to them and tell them, and maybe they would like to get in touch with me. But I'm just sharing this, and I do hope it's been useful for somebody. Okay, that's it for the episode today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here, and watch out for news of my my online course that will be back in January, and I'm really hoping I'm going to get some great women who are going to come and work with me. So if you would be interested at all, please get in touch and let me know so I can put you on the wait list. Okay, take care. Back soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Meeting of Minds podcast. You can find this podcast in all the usual places. Please tell your friends. Please subscribe. And if you have a moment, I'd be really grateful if you could rate and review, as it helps other people find us and helps me spread the messages of empowerment and positivity that I'm really passionate about. If you want to find out more about me, you can visit my website, www.safeandsupported.co.uk. Until next time, bye.